All right, we start with the big news break that's just coming in. Supreme Court holding that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission order in Bilkis Bano case. So a big setback for the convicts and the Gujarat government. The Supreme Court says rather it has quashed the remission of 11 convicts in Bilkis Bano case. So very clear judgment. The Supreme Court holding that the state where an offender is tried and sentenced is competent to decide the remission plea of convicts. The Supreme Court has held that stated that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders of the convicts, but the Maharashtra government. So that is the order of the Supreme Court in the Bilkis Bano case. So the SC essentially quashing the remission of the 11 convicts in the Bilkis Bano case. So a big setback for the convicts in Bilkis Bano case, and that's the Bilkis Bano verdict that is put out by the Supreme Court, saying that rather quashing the remission of 11 convicts, saying that the Gujarat government was not competent to pass the order. All right, let's go across to Madhurima as well to get us the details of the judgment by the Supreme Court. Madhurima, take us to the clear judgment that's been put out by the Supreme Court in the Bilkis Bano case.
Well, Samiksha, it's a historic verdict here delivered by the Supreme Court of India. What needs to be seen here is that the court observed that Bilkis Bano's respect matters, and the decision taken by the Gujarat court was not correct. The Gujarat court was not within its right to pass this kind of remission. The Supreme Court observed that it was the Supreme Court that shifted the entire case to the Maharashtra court, and it was their right to pass to give any pardon, to give any remission in this entire matter. The first thing that the Supreme Court asserted that yes, the entire plea, the petition of Bilkis Bano against this early release of the convicts over here was valid. It had weight, and that the way this has been dismissed is not correct. The Supreme Court in serious observation said that it is about Bilkis Bano's respect, it is about a woman's respect, and there are few crimes that repentance is of utmost importance, Samiksha, and hence this particular decision has been delivered by the Supreme Court.
All right, we'll try and connect with Madhurima again. We cannot really get that audio through, but just to read out again, the verdict that's been put out by the Supreme Court, Justice Nagaratna, who says that judgment of May 13, 2022 is also bad in law as it refused to follow binding precedents, including the Constitution bench judgment regarding the appropriate government or for remission. The Supreme Court essentially saying that the government in Gujarat was not competent to pass that remission order and quashing the remission as was granted to the 11 convicts in Bilkis Bano case. We'll try and get more voices, but it is a big setback for the 11 convicts as the Supreme Court has quashed the remission order that was granted by the Gujarat government. So the Supreme Court saying that the judgment of this court of May 13, 2022 is hit by fraud and nullity. The Supreme Court saying that it is nullity as it was obtained by playing fraud on the court and by suppressing material facts. All right, I think we have Madhurima back with us. Madhurima, keep talking to us. Big setback for the government as well as the convicts. What is next when we talk about the Bilkis Bano case?
Well, following the Supreme Court orders, it will be seen that how these convicts who were released on an early remission by the Gujarat court, they will have to complete the sentence. That will come in the order, because remember, they were given lifetime imprisonment and that was nullified by the Gujarat government when the early release was sanctioned. So now, Samiksha, we'll have to wait for the detailed order of the Supreme Supreme Court that will lay out the future instructions that to how this early release has been cancelled and what would be the rules now that and what would be and how these convicts are going to fulfill the sentence that was awarded in the first place for the heinous crimes that they had committed. But the Supreme Court, under the Article 32, had set aside the Gujarat government's order and has said, like you rightly pointed out, that the Gujarat government's order reeked of fraud and nullity, and hence it was not upon them to sanction the early release, and which is why Supreme Court has given this verdict. We'll have to wait for a detailed order for further instructions. Samiksha.
I'm not getting. All right, just a recap of the big verdict that's coming from the top court. This Justice Nagaratna, who says that the decision rendered in ignorance of statute or binding precedents is per incurem. He further goes on, the Supreme Court judge further says that the government of state of Gujarat had no competence to entertain the applications for remission or pass orders thereon. Reading out the full verdict that we've accessed says that this court's order dated 13th of May 2022, obtained by fraud or nullity, or proceedings taken in furtherance of the judgment are also vital and a nullity in law. He further says that we need not have gone into other issues, but for sake of completion, all orders dated last year are stereotype and cyclo-styled orders. So with this, the remission of 11 convicts has been quashed by the top court. So the Supreme Court holding the state of government, saying that the state of government, where Gujarat was not competent to pass a remission order, a big setback for the convicts. Further maintaining that it has essentially quashed the remission of the 11 convicts in the Bilkis Bano case. We have Madhurima back with us. Madhurima, once again, take us through the detailed order as has been put out by the Supreme Court in the Bilkis Bano case.
Well, Samiksha, the Supreme Court under the Article 32 has set aside the prior order from the state of Gujarat that had allowed an early release of the multiple convicts in the Bilkis Bano case. What needs to be seen here is that Supreme Court made some very strong observations today, Samiksha. The first observation being that the maintainability of the entire petition is solid, it's valid, and that Bilkis Bano's respect matters. Also, what the Supreme Court observed that the way the remission, the early release was granted reeked of fraud and nullity, and that there was no weight in the decision. Also, they said that it was upon the Maharashtra authorities to make such a crucial decision, and the Gujarat authorities were out of the place to sanction an early release of convicts in such a grievous case. Remember that the Supreme Court has also highlighted, Samiksha, that it is imperative that those convicts who were awarded lifetime imprisonment, they will not be able to enjoy the early release. The Supreme Court will lay out the further instructions, and now that they will have to complete their sentence. It's a big win for Bilkis Bano, who was initially, there was a lot of uproar as well at the time when there was an early release. Now all that has been put to rest by the Supreme Court's order, where it has set aside the Gujarat authorities' order that allowed an early release under the Article 32. Samiksha. Allowed an early release under the Article 32.
Those details. So once again, reading out that verdict by the top court in the Bilkis Bano case. Big win for Bilkis Bano. The Supreme Court quashing the remission of the 11 convicts that was granted by the Gujarat government, saying that the Supreme Court says that the Gujarat government was not competent to pass orders, and with this quashing the remission of the 11 convicts.